Have you ever sensed the air change the moment you entered a room, when smiles felt rehearsed and silence carried a hidden weight? You couldn't name it, yet you knew something was off. Most people live blind to what stands before them, reacting instead of seeing. The Stoics called this illusion blindness. But what if you could see without being seen? Stay a little longer. Let's begin. As we step into the first chapter, imagine this. You walk into a room, the air heavy with invisible tension. Faces smile, words flow, laughter rises, but something beneath it feels off, like a faint vibration your senses can't name. Most people live in that blindness. They see what's in front of them but miss what's beneath. They react to tone, not truth. They feel the tremor of emotion and mistake it for meaning. It's not their eyes that deceive them, it's their mind. The Stoics called it the fog of judgment, that subtle distortion between what happens and what we believe it means. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are pained by anything external, it is not that thing that disturbs you, but your judgment about it. And it is in your power to wipe out this judgment." That sentence is more than wisdom. It is a weapon. Because the moment you stop letting your emotions dictate your sight, the fog lifts. The world sharpens. You begin to see things and people as they are, not as your feelings color them. Now imagine a young man walking into his first high-level meeting. His palms sweat. His heart races. He feels like an imposter among sharper minds. Every glance feels like judgment, every silence like rejection. He leaves thinking, they must think I'm not good enough. But what he didn't see was a manager leaning forward, interested, another taking notes, the head of the table pausing, not out of dismissal, but reflection. He missed it all. Not because he lacked intelligence, but because emotion had hijacked his perception. He wasn't observing reality. He was filtering it through fear. When you stop reacting, the lens clears. The Stoic way is not to rush into the noise, but to watch, to breathe, to study rhythm. Who interrupts whom? Who lowers their tone when power enters? Who fills silence to hide insecurity, and who speaks little but lands heavy? This isn't magic. It's discipline. The Stoic sees what is there, unclouded. This is where mastery begins, not in speaking, but in seeing. And to see clearly, you must first detach. Detachment is not coldness. It is disciplined distance. It's stepping back and asking, is this real? Or is this my projection? Most people react before they understand, but the Stoic pauses. The Stoic verifies. As Epictetus said, it's not events that upset us, but our interpretation of them. Once you learn that, you begin to regain control, not of others, but of yourself. And that is where quiet power begins. Moving into the next chapter, let's slow the scene. Imagine walking into a conversation and someone looks away mid-sentence. Instantly your mind whispers, they're bored, they don't respect you. But what if they just remembered a bill unpaid or a message left unanswered? What if your reaction says more about you than about them? Every day people misread the world because they can't stop watching themselves. When you're obsessed with how you're seen, you stop seeing at all. But when you step outside yourself, something extraordinary happens. You start to notice the unsaid, the flicker in someone's eyes before they lie, the half-breath before a truth is hidden, the pattern of laughter that shifts depending on who's watching. This is perception untainted by ego. This is vision without vanity. When you release the need to be liked, you begin to see clearly, because real awareness begins when emotional investment ends. Here's where the transformation deepens. You enter a room without the hunger to be noticed, without the ache to be approved. You simply observe. You start noticing alliances forming in glances. The way one person always speaks last and commands the air. You read the room as a map of silent power. While others scramble to be heard, you see what they miss. And because you're still, you start moving through life like water, fluid, deliberate, unhindered. You speak less, but when you do, your words cut through the noise because they emerge from calm, not chaos. The world respects the voice that doesn't chase attention, but commands it naturally. But that kind of presence requires silence. It requires practice. So start small. The next time you're in a group, resist the urge to fill space. Just watch. See who interrupts, who listens, who avoids, who performs. It will feel strange at first, like standing in stillness while everyone else dances. But that stillness will soon become your edge, because the calm mind sees farther. Now imagine someone makes a sly, passive-aggressive remark. Most people flinch, laugh nervously, or try to defend themselves. You don't. You hold the silence. You turn their words in your hand like a coin, studying both sides before deciding what they're worth. That's apatheia, not apathy, but mastery over emotional disturbance. You still feel, but your feelings no longer lead you. You choose when to respond. You decide whether it's worth your peace. And that decision, repeated daily, builds the unshakable calm of the Stoic. In a world addicted to reaction, the calm observer stands out. People can't explain it, but they feel it. Your stillness unnerves them. Your presence demands respect without a word. Because silence, when owned, is power, and power built on calmness is untouchable. From here, let's step deeper. As your awareness sharpens, you begin to notice patterns everywhere, how attraction hides in glances, how insecurity disguises itself in mockery, how those who crave dominance are often the most afraid. You stop judging, you just see. The Stoic observes not to control, but to understand. You register behavior the way a sailor reads the wind. You don't curse the storm, you adjust your sails. Words become arrows, and if your aim is steady, each one lands with precision. But if you shoot from emotion, you always miss. Detachment is the foundation of clear sight. It's what turns chaos into pattern, confusion into strategy. This isn't deception, it's discipline. And when you live like this, people begin to trust your eyes. They sense that you're grounded, that you won't be swayed by flattery, provoked by insult, or fooled by noise. That is the quiet magnetism of the Stoic mind. It doesn't chase, it attracts. Let me tell you this truth plainly. You cannot master others until you've mastered yourself. You cannot read a room if you can't read your own motives. So the question becomes, can you give up the comfort of reaction to gain the clarity of observation? Can you stop performing long enough to actually see? Because once you do, the world begins to rearrange itself before your eyes. The chaos out there was never the problem. It was the storm inside your head. And when that storm settles, everything changes. The noise fades. The meanings become clear. The world slows down and you finally start moving with precision, not panic. At this stage, a new question rises quietly in the mind. If you can read everyone else so clearly, who is left to read? The answer is simple. You, the hardest person to observe without judgment, is yourself. The next frontier isn't learning to see others, it's learning to see your own reflection without distortion. And that, my friend, is where we go next. Moving into the second chapter, imagine standing in front of a mirror that doesn't show your reflection, but how others experience you. Not your face, not your clothes, but the energy that enters the room with you. would you still recognize yourself? Most people wouldn't. We walk through life assuming we know who we are. We believe our emotions are justified, our words reasonable, our choices logical. But belief isn't clarity. Familiarity isn't truth. We confuse habit for honesty and performance for personality. The Stoics knew this long before the world tried to reinvent the idea through endless self-analysis. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." But the reverse is just as true. We often imagine ourselves better than we are, wiser, calmer, kinder. It's a comforting illusion, but an illusion nonetheless. The greatest journey isn't upward or outward, it's inward. And to walk that path, you must learn to observe yourself like a stranger. Now imagine this. There's a silent camera crew following you everywhere for a week, not to judge, not to expose, just to study. Every word, every gesture, every reaction captured. How would you live if you knew someone was watching not what you say you are, but what you really are? Would you still interrupt others mid-sentence? Would you still make that cutting remark and laugh it off as a joke? Would you still fake laughter at something that doesn't touch your soul just to avoid standing out? That discomfort that rises as you picture this isn't guilt. It's awareness being born. It's the first light breaking through the fog of self-delusion. Because when you start observing yourself from a distance, something inside you shifts. The roles you've been playing begin to crumble. You see the small performances you thought were harmless, and suddenly they look heavier than you imagined. You notice that your confident tone is actually rushed, that your calm posture is really a disguise for stiffness, that your laughter in groups isn't joy, it's survival. You realize you haven't been living, you've been performing. But Stoic self-observation isn't self-punishment. It's clarity without cruelty. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, the impediment to action advances. Action. What stands in the way becomes the way. The obstacle isn't your flaw, it's your doorway. The discomfort you feel when you see yourself clearly isn't a wound, it's a mirror being cleaned. Don't turn away. Look closer. The moment you face what's hard to see, transformation begins. Let me share a story. There was a woman named Sarah, always the strong one, always the loudest voice in the room. She prided herself on being confident, decisive, and unshakable. People relied on her, or so she thought. After a failed group project, she overheard two colleagues speaking. One said quietly, "Sarah doesn't listen. She just wants to be right." That single sentence hit her like a strike to the chest. At first, she burned with anger. She wanted to defend herself, to prove them wrong. But that night, sitting alone, the words echoed. She replayed the meeting in her mind, then again, and finally, she saw it. She hadn't listened. She had cut others off. Her certainty had been armor, not strength. That night, she began journaling, not about what others did wrong, but about her own patterns, how she spoke, how she reacted, where her motives hid. She started watching herself the way a Stoic watches the world, with detachment, with honesty, without flattery. And over time, she changed. Not for approval, but for peace. She no longer wanted to be impressive. She wanted to be real. That's what self-observation gives you, not shame, but alignment. The courage to live without disguise. Yet most people avoid it. They live inside their own fortress, defending the idea of themselves instead of meeting the reality. They build thick walls around their ego and call it confidence. They never ask, is the way I speak healing or harming? They never pause to wonder, do people feel lighter or heavier after being around me? So they stay blind, not because they're bad, but because they never thought to look. And blindness, left unchallenged, becomes identity. But what if you started looking? What if you made it a quiet practice each day to step outside yourself and watch? Not harshly, but honestly. Imagine your life as a work of art in progress. A sculptor steps back from the marble to see the shape taking form. Why shouldn't you? Even a CEO studies his presence before walking into a room, his tone, his timing, his silence. One misstep can shift millions. Your life deserves the same care. You may not lead a company, but you lead something more important, your example. You represent your values, your peace, your integrity, every time you walk into a room. And people notice. The most powerful person in any gathering is never the loudest. It's the one who knows themselves so well that they don't need to prove it. So start small. Watch yourself when you're nervous. Do your words tighten? Do you fill silence just to feel safe? When you laugh, is it truth or imitation? When you speak of your achievements, are you sharing or seeking validation? Don't condemn yourself. Just notice, because that noticing, quiet, humble, relentless, is gold. The Stoics called it prosos, attention, vigilance of the soul. Epictetus didn't train his students to memorize philosophy. He trained them to observe themselves daily. Without observation, wisdom is theory. With it, wisdom becomes practice. Here's a challenge. Tomorrow, live as if someone is observing you. Not with suspicion, but curiosity. Imagine the entire day as a documentary about who you are when no one's looking. Every interaction, every glance, every silence captured. Then, at night, reflect. What story did your day tell? Would a stranger watching feel respect or discomfort? Would they see integrity or insecurity, peace or pretense? The answers may sting at first. You'll see habits you never questioned. You'll cringe at how often you chase approval or bend your truth to fit the crowd. But keep going. The sting is part of the cleansing, because somewhere beyond that pain lies something rare, alignment. Over time, you'll stop performing. You'll start aligning. You'll begin to build a life so honest that even a stranger watching would feel respect. Because self-awareness has a strange power. It changes not just how you see yourself, but how the world sees you. The moment you stop trying to control perception, your essence begins to shape it for you. You become someone whose presence speaks louder than effort ever could. That's the paradox. You stop chasing validation, and suddenly respect finds you. This is what real confidence looks like. It isn't walking into a room thinking, I'm better than everyone here. It's walking in fully aware of your flaws, your strengths, your humanity, and still knowing you're enough. That kind of presence doesn't need to announce itself. It radiates quietly, like a fire that doesn't burn for attention, but for warmth. And just like that, you begin to live differently. You stop guessing who you are. You start knowing. You see yourself with the same clarity you once reserved for judging others. You wake up each morning ready to make small adjustments, to polish the mirror just a bit more. At night, you look back and say, that was me, and I'm proud of that. So the next time someone criticizes you, pause before defending. Step outside yourself. Observe. Ask, is this who I want to be? Is this the kind of person I would respect if I were meeting me for the first time? If the answer is no, change something, even slightly. Because zero growth is still blindness. But even the smallest step forward is momentum. The Stoics never sought perfection. They sought progress. They believed virtue was a daily choice, not a distant mountain. 0.1% better every day becomes transformation over time. Not perfection, but progress. Not performance, but alignment. Because once you see yourself clearly, without vanity, without fear, you no longer chase how others see you. You simply embody it. And here's the beauty of it all. When you master the art of seeing yourself, others begin to see you too. Not because you demand it, but because clarity has its own gravity. It pulls attention without noise. It commands respect without effort. And that brings us to what comes next, how silence itself can make others listen. The next chapter begins where words end. Advancing to the third chapter, picture this. You're in a room where words keep colliding in mid-air, voices layered over voices, laughter that sounds like tension wearing a mask. Everyone seems desperate to fill the quiet. The moment silence appears, it's treated like a mistake to be corrected. But what if that silence isn't a void? What if it's power? The Stoics knew this long before the world drowned in noise. They understood that silence, when mastered, isn't the absence of strength. It's the proof of it. The one who holds silence holds the center. The one who can stand calmly in stillness, while others fidget and speak to hide their unease, commands the entire room without saying a word. Silence makes people nervous because it reveals things they'd rather hide. It's a mirror they can't control. When you stop talking, others start showing. They rush to fill the air with what they think you want to hear, what they hope you'll believe, or what they fear might be exposed. If you're still enough, you'll catch it, the flicker of doubt behind their eyes, the shift in tone when truth wavers, the subtle self-justification that betrays insecurity. That's why silence isn't passive, it's active presence. Epictetus taught, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. But ask yourself, how often do you truly listen? Not just to the words, but to what lives underneath them, the emotion, the motive, the tremor between syllables. That's where truth hides, and truth only reveals itself to the calm. Let me take you into a story. A young lawyer, fresh from university, gets invited to a negotiation between 2 veteran CEOs. His mentor gives him only one instruction: observe. Say nothing. So he sits at the table and watches. The tension builds. One CEO makes an offer, bold, sharp, and then stops talking. The silence stretches. The other man shifts in his seat, uncomfortable, sweating beneath the weight of the pause. Then, as if rescuing himself from discomfort, he starts speaking. He explains, over-explains, tries to justify the offer, even concedes terms that were never requested. Within minutes, the deal is signed. The young lawyer realizes something he'll never forget. It wasn't wit or persuasion that won the room. It was silence. Not timid silence, intentional silence. A weapon sharpened by patience. Now step back and apply that to everyday life. You don't need a boardroom to wield this power. You only need the courage to stop speaking first, because silence is not emptiness, it's control. The Stoic doesn't rush to fill air. They don't compete in noise. They wait, they watch, and when they finally speak, their words land with precision. When you pause before responding, even for 2 seconds, the air shifts. You stop reacting. You start deciding. The Stoics believed that mastery begins in that small space between stimulus and response. It's where choice lives. Every second of silence buys you clarity. Every pause is a test of discipline. Try this in your next conversation. Someone asks, "What do you think?" Don't rush to answer. Let the pause breathe. Let them lean in. Watch how silence pulls people closer. It makes them reveal their motives, their uncertainties, their character. The loud reveal themselves. The patient learn everything, because the one who doesn't flinch from silence is the one who understands its language. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injustice." That includes the way we speak. When someone raises their tone, tries to rattle your peace with arrogance or manipulation, your instinct will be to meet their noise with your own. Don't. Pause. Look at them. Breathe. Choose whether the moment deserves your energy or not. Often, in that silence, you'll realize it doesn't. The Stoic doesn't use silence as retreat. He uses it as strategy. He waits, not out of fear, but because he knows power grows in restraint. The storm that doesn't move destroys nothing, but also loses nothing. That's the kind of composure you want. Think of silence like the sculptor's chisel. What defines the statue isn't only what's carved away, but the empty space that remains. The same is true for speech. The space between your words gives shape to your presence. Without it, everything collapses into noise. In a world addicted to filling gaps, the one who leaves space commands attention. Too many people speak to prove they exist. The Stoic speaks only to prove understanding. A perfect sentence might impress for a moment. A well-timed pause can haunt for years. Let's bring this closer. Ask yourself, do you explain too much? Do you laugh when nothing's funny? Do you talk too fast, afraid that quiet will betray your nerves? Most people do. It's not weakness, it's habit. But every unnecessary word is a withdrawal from your inner strength. Every rushed answer is a leak in your composure. Start reclaiming that power by doing nothing. Pause. Let others reach for your silence. The one who controls silence controls rhythm, and rhythm, not volume, is what people remember. There's a woman I once knew named Elise. She worked in customer relations, bright, capable, endlessly eager to please. Her voice was quick, her tone cheerful, her sentences overflowing. She thought speed proved efficiency. One day, her mentor told her, "Slow down. Let silence do some of the work." It sounded strange to her, but the next time she faced a difficult client, she tried. The client ranted for minutes, frustration pouring out. When he stopped, Elise simply stayed quiet. Not defensive, not awkward, just calm. The client, surprised by the stillness, began speaking again, but this time softer, more sincere. By the end of the call, his anger was gone. He thanked her, not for the answer, but for the silence. That's what silence does. It calms storms without saying a word. But don't mistake it for easy. Silence is a discipline. It tests your ego. At first, you'll want to interrupt, to fill the space, to defend yourself. You'll feel the pull of insecurity demanding noise. Let it pass. Let it burn out. The silence that remains afterward is where your real strength begins. Because people aren't afraid of silence, they're afraid of what it reflects back to them. And when you're the one unbothered by it, you become unshakable. The Stoic knows this. Silence is the bodyguard of dignity. Something deeper happens too. When you master silence in speech, you begin mastering silence within. The external quiet starts mirroring an internal stillness. You no longer need to chase validation with your voice. You no longer need to fear awkward pauses or empty rooms. You realize that peace isn't the absence of noise, it's the refusal to become it. And when you reach that state, you become magnetic. Not because you seek attention, but because you radiate presence. In a world that equates loudness with leadership, the quiet one stands apart, not as mysterious, but as sovereign. People lean in when you talk because they can feel that you don't need to. Your silence carries the weight of thought. Your words carry the scent of intention. You're no longer trying to impress. You're choosing to express. That's rare, and it's unforgettable. Remember this: the Stoic doesn't speak to fill time. He speaks when his words outweigh his silence, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes the most powerful statement is to say nothing at all, because silence, when chosen, is not absence, it's authority. So practice it. The next time you speak, leave space. The next time someone tests your patience, hold the quiet. Watch how their mask cracks under the weight of your calm. Let the stillness do the talking. Over time, you'll notice the world treating you differently, not because you demanded respect, but because you became the kind of person who doesn't need to ask for it. And now that you've learned to see others clearly, to observe yourself honestly, and to speak with presence through silence, there's one final horizon left to cross. It's time to see beyond moments and faces, to read the patterns that rule them all, not just the people, but the rhythm that moves them. From silence, we step into foresight. From calm, we step into wisdom. And that's where you become untouchable. At this stage, pause for a moment and feel this truth. Something in your life is unfolding right now, quietly, beneath your awareness. Not because it's hidden, but because your mind hasn't yet learned to see it. The Stoics believed nothing is random. The world moves in patterns. People move in patterns. Every reaction, every decision, every silence follows rhythm and cause. Fate, to them, wasn't chaos. It was order waiting to be understood. When you start seeing the rhythm behind events, you stop stumbling through them. You begin to move with life instead of against it. Look closely at the world around you. Everyone repeats. The man who stops at the same cafe every morning, same time, same corner, same order. Most people would walk by and see nothing, but a Stoic would see the rhythm, a pattern, a loop. Every loop reveals something: comfort, preference, vulnerability. When you understand someone's rhythm, you can move with them, not to control, but to connect. Influence begins with understanding. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do. Alignment before action, that's the art of flowing with reality, not forcing it." Now picture a more difficult scene. You're facing someone loud, dismissive, always trying to dominate. Most people would argue back or match their intensity. The Stoic stays still. You remember something they once said, maybe a casual phrase: "I just want to be first." That's the pattern, not logic, but ego. So you align with it. When the time comes, you say calmly, "You'll be the first to see this." You don't raise your tone, you don't push, you move with their current, and they yield. That's not manipulation, that's wisdom. But here's the warning. This kind of awareness is a blade, powerful but dangerous without virtue. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike your enemy." If you use awareness to manipulate, it turns on you. Use it to harmonize instead. The Stoic studies quietly, not to conquer others, but to stay clean within himself. Insight without integrity is corrosion. Insight with purpose becomes strength. And this doesn't apply only to others. It applies to you. Your life is also a pattern. Your habits, your moods, your fears, they're not random. If you always feel anxious before a social event, that's a loop. If you feel calm after a morning walk, that's a loop. If you freeze every time uncertainty appears, that's another. Seneca said, "Fate leads the willing and drags the unwilling." Life is a river. You can fight the current or learn its flow. Awareness doesn't give you control, it gives you choice. Start small. Notice when your energy drops. Who drains it? What revives it? Notice which moments sharpen you and which dull you. Then look outward. Watch others without judgment. Who speaks first? Who waits? Who avoids eye contact? Who hides behind humor? Patterns reveal character more than words ever will. Once you start seeing beyond moments, you stop being surprised by them. You stop being reactive. You begin to act with clarity, but this skill demands patience. The mind that craves instant answers can't see patterns because patterns unfold slowly. A Stoic mind records, compares, and waits. While others chase every emotion of the present, the Stoic tracks what always happens. That's how you stop playing the game and start understanding the board. Try this. Think of someone who confuses you, unpredictable, difficult, hard to read. For the next 2 weeks, don't confront or analyze, just observe. How do they respond to disagreement? What tone do they use around authority? What do they avoid talking about? You're not judging, you're mapping. By the end, you'll see their rhythm. Once you do, they'll stop confusing you, not because they changed, but because you finally saw the pattern. Now imagine applying this everywhere, with family, with friends, with strangers. You stop chasing moments and begin sensing the quiet current that carries them. That's what Stoic vision really is, seeing farther because you're standing still. While others chase control, you gain foresight. You're not predicting the future, you're understanding how it moves. But with understanding comes responsibility. Awareness without virtue is dangerous. The Stoics knew that wisdom divorced from morality becomes manipulation. So use this gift wisely. Use it to move with people, not against them. To meet the rhythm of life without trying to dominate it. Marcus said, "Be upright, not kept upright. Strength built on inner order cannot be shaken. People are patterns. Life is rhythm." When you see that, you stop fighting reality and start aligning with it. You stop rushing through life, trying to win each moment, and begin mastering the sequence behind them. You no longer fear uncertainty. You've learned to listen to the quiet logic beneath all things. You don't need to control what comes next because you already understand how it unfolds. That's where mastery begins, not in overpowering others, but in mastering yourself. Because once you can read the rhythm of life, you realize something profound. The future isn't a mystery to be solved. It's a pattern to be recognized. And when you move with it instead of against it, every step becomes deliberate. Every word precise, every silence meaningful. You stop reacting, you start leading, you stop guessing, you begin knowing, and from that stillness you become untouchable. When you learn to see without reacting, to observe without judgment, and to move with quiet intention, you rise above the noise. While others chase attention, you earn it through calm awareness and steady presence. That is true strength. That is silent influence. If this message resonated, take a moment to subscribe and keep growing with purpose. Comment "I observe" to remind yourself that clarity always wins over chaos. Growth begins in stillness, in awareness, in the small, unseen choices that shape who you become. Stay grounded, stay wise, and prepare for what comes next.